My sister-in-law hid every trace of my wedding invite, but she didn't expect the bride to announce my name first. I was sitting on the porch when I first saw the post. My cousin had put up a picture of a big white envelope with gold lettering. Everyone was tagging each other. My heart dropped. I ran inside and checked our mailbox. Empty. I walked back and stayed at my phone until the spinning dot stopped. No invite. My brother's wedding was in 3 weeks and I felt cold all over. I texted Sophie, the bride. Maybe it got lost, I typed. She read it and sent a short reply. I thought you said you weren't coming. My stomach turned. I called right away. The line rang and then it clicked off. Someone had already told a story for me that left no room for my voice. At brunch that day, Lila smiled at me like she liked bad weather. Some people just aren't meant for formal weddings, she said, and the words landed like a slap. I tried to laugh it off, but my cheeks burned. Over the next day I watched seating charts and posts go up. My name was nowhere. Distant cousins posted their invites, and friends from high school commented with hearts. My phone buzzed with likes that felt like pins. I called my mom, and she said I was being silly. Maybe they kept it small, she said, like my worry was just thin air. I felt erased. I went to Sophie again, but she didn't answer. I walked next door to Lila's house because she lived right there and my feet moved before my head did. I knocked. She opened the door and looked at me like I had dust on my face. Even if I didn't send it, she said with a laugh, do you think Sophie wanted you there? The laugh cut me deeper than any knife. If you like tense true revenge stories, hit subscribe for more, because this was only the start. I went home shaking. My hands were small and cold as I held my coffee. I replayed Lila's laugh in my head until it felt like it belonged to the room. I thought maybe I had missed something. Maybe I had said no by mistake, or maybe the mail had been stolen. I checked our record of incoming mail and found a smudged spot where an envelope had been torn open. The glue strip looked like someone had pried it back. My chest tightened. I called Sophie again and left a calm voice message asking if she could check. An hour later, my cousin sent a private message. Didn't you decline? Lila said you weren't coming. My blood ran cold. Someone had lied for me. I felt small and angry all at once. I wanted to shout, to tell everyone what Lila had done. But I didn't. I sat very still and thought. The next day at work people asked if I was excited. I nodded and smiled, but my mouth felt stuck. At family dinner my mom said I was making a mountain out of nothing. My brother kept glancing at his phone and smiling. He seemed scared to say the wrong thing. I tried to bring it up, and my brother waved a napkin like a shield. We're trying to keep plans simple, he said. It was the same lie in different clothes. My brother's fiancée, Sophie, avoided my texts. Lila posted a picture of a stack of envelopes with the caption, all sent to our special guests, and tagged a wink emoji. People liked the picture. My heart thudded. I felt watched and laughed at. I stopped answering calls that night. I went to bed early and lay awake thinking of that opened envelope. The next morning I decided I would not be erased. I felt a small spark of something like steel grow inside me. I would find out who had taken my place. I started looking for clues like a dog tracking a scent. I checked our mailbox again and found fibers stuck to the tay in the torn envelope. They matched the curtains on Lila's porch. My hands shook as I took a picture. I texted it to one person, Sophie's best friend Claire. I didn't know Claire well, but I had seen her at a few family events. She replied fast, I thought you were joking. I'll help. Claire sent me a screenshot an hour later. It showed Lila bragging in a private chat. Deleted that invite. Sophie will never know. My breath stopped. I read the words twice to make sure they were real. I wanted to confront Lila, but Claire warned me. If you show up uninvited, she'll make it about you. She will make a scene. Her words felt like sticky mud. My phone buzzed with work messages, and I set it down. I walked to the mirror and looked at my face. I thought of my brother's smile and how he seemed to trust Lila. The next day, Lila invited cousins to a pre-wedding brunch and posted pictures of herself with ribbons and dresses. My co-workers were in the photos. My heart sank at how comfortable she looked wearing the place that should have been mine in family pictures. I messaged Sophie and attached the screenshot. Before she could reply, Lila sent a message to the family group saying, Emma is spreading lies. My world spun. Friends asked me if I was okay. I answered with a quiet, I'll be fine. Inside I was not fine at all. I felt cut off from the people I loved. The pictures kept piling up and my place at the table felt like it had been stolen. I stopped going to family events. For the first time in years, I felt alone. Weeks passed and the absence became heavy in the house. I walked past wedding posts and felt like the world was moving without me. My mom called and said maybe it was better this way. You can avoid drama, she said. Her voice sounded like she was looking for a small piece. I wanted to scream. Instead, I quietly packed a box of old photos and letters from my childhood. I thought about my brother as a little boy and how he would hide my toys and ask me to find them. He had always been the kind of person who followed the easiest path. Lila had found the seams of that softness. My heart ached when I thought of how easily they had put me away like a forgotten sweater. One night Sophie's maid of honor, Claire, messaged me again. I saw the chat. I didn't want to get involved at first, but I can't stand lies. She sent a picture of Lila's private screen where Lila had typed, "Deleted Emma's invite. Job done." I felt a hot sting of relief and fear at the same time. I wanted Sophie to see it, but I also feared Sophie would blame me for stirring trouble. Claire told me she would show Sophie when Sophie was ready. That made me feel less alone. I began to watch Lila more closely. She drove to family events with a small, sweet smile that made other people relax near her. I started to notice things. Lila would ask Sophie odd questions about who in the family was close to whom. She would mention my name in a way that made listeners think I was dramatic. My brother seemed to believe whatever she said. The more I watched, the clearer it became that Lila had not just hidden my invite. She had worked to make sure I would look like the bad one if I fought. That hurt worse than being left out. It felt like someone had thrown a shadow over my life and told me to stay there. By now I had decided I would not bow out. I sat at my small kitchen table with a notebook and a pen and wrote a list. Names, dates, posts, messages. I wrote down every time I had been left out, and every time Lila had smiled in a way that hurt. I made a folder on my phone labeled proof. I kept the torn envelope, the fibers, and the screenshots Claire had sent. I also started saving small notes from neighbors who had seen Lila near our mailbox the week invites were supposed to be sent. One neighbor, Mrs. Hale, told me she noticed a car in the lane that matched Lila's. She had thought nothing of it then, but she agreed to write a short note. I polished my list until it made sense to me. I felt steadier, like I had bricks under my feet. I wanted to confront Lila but not like a thunderclap. I wanted people to see the truth, slow and clear. I reached out to a cousin who worked at the printing shop that had made the invites. He checked their records and found an extra envelope was printed and listed as return to sender. The return address was our home. I could feel the plan taking shape in my mind the way a builder sees a house in a pile of wood and nails. I would not be loud or mean. I would be calm and true. I would go to the wedding. I would bring the things no one could fake, proof and grace. I slept that night with the list under my pillow and a small sense of a plan like a seed in the dark. I woke up with a tight feeling in my chest the next morning. I checked my phone and saw more posts. Lila had shared a picture from the rehearsal meeting. My family sat around long tables covered in flowers. My brother looked happy. Sophie smiled wide. Lila stood right beside her like she was the bride's sister. I zoomed in. There was a seating chart taped to the wall. I checked line by line. My name was not there. Again. Even cousins who lived out of state had places saved. My head buzzed. I went to my mom's house and showed her the screenshot. She brushed it off. "Emma, you always get emotional. You need to stop thinking the world is against you." That hurt more than any of Lila's words. I felt like no one saw what was happening. Later that day, Claire messaged me privately again. "You're not wrong," she wrote. "I saw the chart too. Your name was removed." She said Lila had been acting bossy with the planners, telling them who to place where. Claire promised she would keep watching. I thanked her. She was the only person who didn't treat me like I was broken. That night, I tried relaxing, watching a movie, but every scene looked like pieces of my life were missing. I wanted to cry but held it in. My anger was growing in a quiet way, not loud like fire, but slow and steady like a storm far away. I knew one thing now. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted me gone. And she was smiling about it. I went for a long walk the next morning to clear my thoughts. The sky was gray, and the air felt heavy. My phone buzzed nonstop. The family group chat was blowing up. Someone had posted pictures from a tasting event. Everyone commented things like "so excited" and "best wedding ever coming soon." I stayed at the screen. My own family didn't even wonder where I was. Then a message popped up. "Thanks to everyone who helped today." It was from Lila. Underneath, she added, "Some people didn't show up, but that's okay. We need people who support love." That last line stung. I knew it was aimed at me. A few minutes later, a cousin texted me privately, "Are you okay? Lila said you were upset because you weren't chosen as a bridesmaid." I almost dropped my phone. That was never true. I had never asked to be a bridesmaid. I wouldn't even dream of it. I wrote back that it was a lie, but my cousin didn't respond again. It was like my words were made of I walked home slowly. This was deeper than a missing invitation. Lila was painting me as a jealous, dramatic person. She was telling stories I had no way to stop. When I got home, I sat on the floor and hugged my knees. I wondered what I had done to make Lila hate me. I never fought with her. I never said anything bad. But maybe I didn't have to. Some people needed no reason to hurt others. Their reason was simply that they liked the feeling. That evening, I made myself tea and stayed at the wall. My mind kept replaying things I never noticed before. The way Lila rolled her eyes when I talked. The way she always tried to fix things that didn't need fixing. The way she once said, "Some families have too many weak links," while looking right at me. Maybe the signs had been there all along. I had just never believed someone in my own family could be cruel. My phone buzzed again, and I almost didn't check it. It was Claire. "We need to talk," she wrote. We met at a small cafe near her house. She looked nervous, like she was holding something heavy. She showed me another screenshot. This one hurt even more. Lila had written in a private group chat, "Emma is like a shadow. No one will miss her. I made sure she won't show up." My breath caught. Claire's face softened. "Emma, you don't deserve this." I nodded but felt numb. On the way home, I thought again about confronting Lila. I pictured knocking on her door and demanding answers. But then I remembered how she laughed at me before. She would twist my words and tell people I had attacked her. She had too many ears listening to her lies, and I had none. When I arrived home, the house felt cold and strange. I sat on my bed and whispered to myself, "I will not let her win." A quiet determination settled inside me. I felt myself standing straighter. Lila thought she had erased me. She had no idea I was still here, watching. 2 days later, Sophie finally called. My phone lit up with her name, and my heart jumped. I answered quickly. Her voice sounded soft but tense. "Emma, did you really tell Lila you weren't coming?" I closed my eyes. "No, I never said that." Sophie sighed. "She said you complained about the wedding and didn't want to be involved." My chest tightened. "That's not true," I said. "I was waiting for my invitation." There was a long silence on the line. Sophie sounded confused, almost embarrassed. "I swear I mailed it myself," she said. "I even put a little sticker on yours." "I don't understand." I didn't want to blame her. I could hear the worry in her voice. She didn't know she was caught in Lila's web too. "Something happened to it," I said gently. Sophie murmured, "I'll look into it," then hung up. I sat on the couch holding my phone, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. Someone finally believed there was a problem. Later that evening, I went to check the mailbox again. I ran my fingers along the inside and felt a small tear in the cardboard. Someone had reached in. Lila lived next door. The realization hit like a bright, painful spark. I took a picture of the tear and saved it. When I walked back inside, I didn't feel as helpless as before. Sophie was confused. Claire was on my side. Proof was growing. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of understanding the truth. And truth had weight. Enough weight to drag lies into the light. I woke the next morning feeling strangely clear. I made breakfast and sat at the table with all my saved screenshots and notes spread around me. The sunlight hit them like little clues in a detective movie. Every piece pointed to Lila. Every message she sent twisted my image into something ugly. Every missing invite, every rumor, every whisper tied back to her. I took a deep breath. I needed to tell my family. I called my mom first. She answered on the third ring. When I explained everything, The torn envelope, the screenshots, the messages. She sighed. Emma, don't start trouble. My throat tightened. Mom, this is real. But she didn't want to listen. She kept saying maybe Lila made a simple mistake. A simple mistake doesn't erase a person, I thought. I hung up feeling more alone than ever. When I finally reached my brother, he brushed it off too. Lila wouldn't do that, he said. She's just stressed. I realized then that talking to them wouldn't fix anything. They were blinded by wedding excitement. I stood by the window and watched Lila pull into her driveway, smiling like a queen. I whispered to myself, she thinks she's won. That moment was my turning point. Maybe my own family wouldn't believe me. But the truth was on my side. And truth is loyal, even when family isn't. I gathered all my evidence and placed it neatly in a folder. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I would show the world what she had done. And when I did, she would fall. I spent the next 2 days in a strange quiet. I barely spoke to anyone. Even work felt far away, like I was moving through fog. My co-workers talked about the upcoming wedding, not knowing I was the sister who had been erased. I smiled politely and kept my head down. At home, the folder of evidence sat on my counter like a heartbeat. I kept opening it and reading everything again, just to remind myself I wasn't imagining things. One night, Claire sent me a short message. Sophie is confused. Lila told her you started drama. That hurt, but it also confirmed something. Lila was afraid. Afraid of people finding out the truth. I took a long breath and told Claire, I'm coming to the wedding. She wrote back almost instantly. Good. But be ready. Lila will try something. That didn't scare me anymore. The fear inside me had changed shape. It wasn't sharp now. It was low and steady, like a drum. Still, loneliness hit me at odd moments. My mom wouldn't listen. My brother trusted the wrong person. The family group chat kept buzzing with jokes and plans that didn't include me. I muted it. That night, I sat on my bed and looked at an old picture of me and my brother when we were kids. We were smiling with missing teeth. I wondered when everything had changed. When did love turn into silence? I didn't have answers, but I had something better, proof. And a plan forming quietly in my mind like a sunrise no one could stop. The next morning the family group chat blew up again. Someone posted pictures from the bridal shower. My stomach sank when I saw them. Lila was standing next to Sophie, holding a sign that said Sisters Forever. I wasn't even invited. I scrolled through every photo, searching for any sign that they wondered where I was. Nothing. Not a single message or tag. I put my phone face down. It buzzed again minutes later, a text from my aunt. Oh, Emma, we missed you today. I felt heat rise to my face. I typed back slowly. I wasn't invited, but before I could send it, I deleted the words. My aunt wasn't the enemy. Lila was. Around noon, Claire sent another message. Sophie asked why you're silent. I told her you're hurt. That made my eyes sting a little. Someone saw me. Someone understood. Later that afternoon, I walked to the store to clear my head. When I came home, I saw Lila stepping out of her car. She smiled fake sweet. Busy day, she asked. I kept my voice even. Just errands. She walked past me, humming, and I saw her glance toward our mailbox as if checking her territory. I felt a chill. She acted like she owned the whole street. When I went inside, I locked the door even though it was still daylight. I stood there for a long time thinking about how easily she moved through my life, taking things that didn't belong to her. I pressed my hand against the folder of evidence. I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. That night I had trouble sleeping. My mind played scenes over and over. Lila laughing, people believing her, my brother brushing aside my words. Around midnight, I got up and made tea. I sat on the couch and thought about everything I had lost these past weeks. Not just the invitation, but trust, family, safety. I decided then that whatever happened, I would walk into that wedding with my head high. If they didn't want me there, they would have to say it to my face. The next morning, Clay and I met again at the cafe. She looked around nervously before sitting down. Sophie still seems confused, she whispered. Lila keeps telling her that you're jealous. I sighed. I just want the truth out. Claire nodded and pulled something from her bag, another screenshot. This one showed Lila bragging that she convinced the planners to move my name off the original chart. She said you made everything awkward, Claire said. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I didn't even get invited, I said. Claire shook her head. I know. That's why I'm helping you. Her kindness warmed me like a small fire. As I walked home, I made a decision. If they wouldn't give me a seat, I would bring my own. Not literally, but with my presence, my proof, and my calm. Lila wanted to erase me. She forgot one rule. People notice when someone disappears. They also notice when she comes back. 2 days later, Lila posted another picture. This time she was trying on dresses for family photos. She stood in front of a mirror wearing a pale blue gown. The caption read, "Can't wait for the big day." Blue heart, everything in the comments was praise. You look stunning. Such a perfect sister. I felt a lump in my throat. That was supposed to be me, not the dress, but the space beside my brother. The place a sister belongs. I closed the app and stayed outside at the empty street. Then something unexpected happened. Sophie texted. A short message. Can we talk? I wrote back yes. She called almost immediately. Her voice sounded small. Emma, I don't know what's happening. People keep saying different things. I asked gently, what do you want to know? She hesitated. Did you really tell Lila you didn't want to come? No, I said. I would never. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, I believe you. My eyes filled with tears. She took a shaky breath and said she needed time to sort things out. After we hung up, I felt lighter, like someone had finally opened a window in a stuffy room. I knew Lila would feel the shift too, and she wouldn't like it. That evening, as I walked to take out the trash, I saw Lila standing on her porch, staring at me. Not smiling this time. Watching. Measuring. I didn't look away. For the first time, she blinked first. The next morning, the group chat exploded again, but this time, it wasn't about flowers or brunches. It was about a small accident at the venue rehearsal. Someone had spilled juice on the seating chart, and a few names had to be reprinted. I knew instantly it wasn't an accident. Claire messaged me privately. This is Lila's doing. She freaked out because Sophie asked questions about the invite. I could almost imagine Lila pacing around, trying to control things she felt slipping away. Later that day, I walked to the mailbox again. Everything looked normal, but I still checked for signs of tampering. I felt like someone living with a ghost. Quiet, invisible, but always there. I spent the afternoon choosing a gift for Sophie. I remembered hearing that she loved old family heirlooms. I went to my closet and found a small silver brooch that once belonged to my grandmother. I cleaned it, wrapped it carefully, and placed it in a box. It felt right, something honest and full of history. Something Lila could never fake. That evening, Claire called with a bold idea. I can add your name back to the guest list, she whispered. No one checks the assistant notes closely. My heart pounded. Will it work? She said yes, but be ready. Lila will notice at the rehearsal dinner. I smiled slowly. Good, I said. Let her notice. That night I placed the brooch beside my evidence folder. My plan was shifting from hope to action, from silence to truth, and I knew now that the real turning point was coming. The next morning felt strange, like the air was holding a secret. I got ready for work, but my mind kept drifting to the updated guest list Claire promised to slip my name onto. I kept imagining Lila's face when she saw it, not out of meanness, but because justice has a way of showing itself in people's eyes. When I arrived home later that day, I found a stack of mail on the porch. I flipped through it slowly. Bill, flyer, magazine, then a wedding update card. My hands froze. It was addressed to me. The handwriting looked like Sophie's. I opened it carefully. Inside was a schedule for the wedding weekend. No invitation, just instructions. It felt like a placeholder, like someone trying to smooth over a cracked wall without fixing the foundation. But it meant one thing. Sophie really was starting to question everything. I placed the card beside my folder of evidence and took a deep breath. That evening, Claire called. It's done, she said softly. Your name is listed at the bride's parents' table. My heart thumped hard. Are you sure? Positive, she said. I made it match Sophie's writing style too. I thanked her again and again. After the call, I stood by the window watching the sunset. Lila had worked so hard to erase me, but now my name was printed on the most important spot in the entire seating plan. That thought made something warm and fearless bloom inside me. Revenge wasn't loud. It could be quiet, gentle, and still hit exactly where it needed to. The rehearsal dinner was the next evening. I wasn't invited, of course, but Claire went and kept me updated. I sat on my couch with my phone on loud, waiting. At 7:42 p.m., she sent a message. She saw it. My heart jumped. A minute later, she's freaking out, whisper yelling at Sophie. I pictured Lila standing there in her fancy dress, clutching the seating chat with trembling hands, trying to pull the world back under her control. Claire sent another text. She's saying you forced your way in. Sophie is confused. I sat back and smiled, a small quiet smile that felt sharp and sweet. I hadn't forced anything. I simply took back the space that belonged to me. At 8:10 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time Claire sent a voice message. When I played it, I heard muffled shouting. Lila's voice. She can't sit there. She's not part of this. Then Sophie's voice, softer but firm. Lila, stop. She's my future sister. She belongs here. Tears filled my eyes. Not from sadness, from relief. From being seen again. Claire followed with a final text. Everyone noticed her meltdown. It looked bad. I closed my eyes and let that moment sink into me like sunlight after rain. The lies were slipping out of Lila's hands. She was panicking. And people were finally noticing the cracks. The storm she had created was starting to bend back toward her. And the real wedding day wasn't even here yet. The next morning I woke early, unable to sleep from all the thoughts swirling in my mind. I made breakfast, but barely ate. The wedding was the next day, and everything felt heavy with the sense that something big was coming. My phone buzzed. It was Sophie. Can you meet me today? Just us. My heart raced. I agreed. We met at a quiet park near the lake. She looked tired, her eyes puffy like she had been crying. Emma, she said, I don't know who to trust anymore. I sat beside her on a bench. I know, I said softly. This hasn't been easy for you. She nodded and stayed at the ground. Lila said you refused the invite. Then she said you deleted it. Then she said you were mad about not being a bridesmaid. Every time I ask her something, the story changes. I stayed silent, letting her speak. She continued. I didn't understand until Claire showed me. She paused, searching for words. Some of the screenshots. My chest tightened. She had seen at least part of the truth. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. Sophie, I said, you deserve the whole truth. She looked at the folder like it was dangerous. Slowly, she opened it and read. Every screenshot, every note, every piece of evidence. When she finished, she wiped her eyes. Emma, I'm so sorry, she whispered. I shook my head. You didn't do this. She took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she said, I'll make things right. For the first time, I believed her. The day before the wedding felt strangely calm, like the air was holding its breath. I spent the afternoon preparing. I laid out my dress, a simple navy blue one that made me feel confident but not loud. I polished the silver brooch, the heirloom I planned to give Sophie. I rehearsed what I would say if Lila tried something. Not angry words. Calm ones. The kind that cut deeper because they carried truth. Around evening, Claire messaged me again. Be ready. She's planning something. My stomach knotted. Do you know what? Not exactly, she replied. But she's been ranting. Saying you'll ruin everything. I wasn't surprised. But I was steady. After dinner, I took a slow walk down our street. Lila's house was lit up, silhouettes moving inside. I saw her pacing through the window, waving her hands while talking to someone, probably my brother. I felt a pang of sadness for him. He had no idea his sister was trying to trap him in lies. When I reached my porch, I saw something unusual, a small white envelope tucked under my doormat. I picked it up. My name was written in Sophie's handwriting. Inside was a short note. Tomorrow, stand tall. I'll handle the rest. My throat tightened. I pressed the note to my chest. The night was quiet around me. I whispered into the dark. Lila has no idea what's coming. And for the first time since this began, I didn't feel afraid. I felt ready. Wedding morning arrived bright and warm. I woke early, took a long shower, and dressed slowly, making sure every part of me felt steady. I pinned the silver brooch inside my purse, brushed my hair, and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look like someone who had been pushed aside for weeks. I looked like someone walking toward the truth. When I stepped outside, Lila was already leaving her house in a fancy dress, her heels clicking sharply on the walkway. She glanced at me and froze. Her eyes narrowed, but she forced a smile. "Going somewhere?" she asked, voice sweet as spoiled fruit. "Yes," I said simply. "To the wedding." Her smile cracked. "Oh, I didn't know you were invited." I met her eyes. "You don't know everything." She stiffened, then hurried to her car without another word. At the venue, people turned as I walked in. Some whispered. Some smiled. The air felt heavy with curiosity. Then Sophie spotted me. Her face lit up. She walked over quickly and hugged me tight. "You made it," she whispered. I smiled. "You asked me to." Lila appeared behind her, breathless and pale. "She shouldn't be here," she started loudly. But Sophie turned sharply. "Lila," she said, her voice calm but strong, "not today." The room went silent. I felt the first real shift in power, gentle but powerful. And I knew deep in my chest, the real justice was about to begin. Inside the venue, everything shimmered, gold ribbons, white flowers, soft music floating like warm air. I held my small purse close, the brooch inside feeling heavier than it really was. People stared at me, some surprised, some pretending not to see. I walked calmly, making sure every step said, "I belong here." Sophie guided me toward the bride's room. When she opened the door, the air smelled like perfume and hairspray. Sophie smiled at me through the mirror. "I'm really glad you came," she said. I handed her the small wrapped box. "This is from my grandmother," I explained. "She always wanted the women in our family to feel strong on big days." Sophie opened the box slowly. When she saw the silver brooch, her eyes filled. "Emma, it's beautiful," she whispered. Lila walked in right at that moment. Her smile froze when she saw the gift. "Oh, how sweet," she said, voice sharp around the edges. Sophie turned to her. "Emma's family. I want her with me today." The words hit Lila like a stone. She stood stiff, gripping her dress. I sat quietly, watching Lila's reflection in the mirror. She kept glancing at me, annoyed that I hadn't broken or run away. When Sophie's hairstylist asked for a few minutes alone with the bride, I stepped back into the hallway. I breathed slowly, steadying myself. Tomorrow didn't matter. Yesterday didn't matter. Only what happened next. And the next steps were already falling into place. The ceremony was starting soon, so guests moved toward their seats. I walked with the crowd, heart beating steadily. When I reached the seating chart board, people were gathered around it. I waited, then stepped forward. My eyes scanned the list. There it was, Emma Wells, placed between the bride's parents just like Claire had said. A place of honor. A place Lila couldn't touch. Gasps rippled behind me as people noticed. Then I heard the one voice I expected. Lila pushed through the crowd, her face tight like stretched plastic. "This is wrong," she snapped. "Emma isn't supposed to be here." The wedding planner looked confused. "But her name is printed here," he said. Lila glared at him. "This must be a mistake." Sophie appeared beside us, calm but firm. "It's not a mistake," she said. "I approved it." Lila's jaw dropped. "But," Sophie cut her off gently. "Lila, enough. Not today." People stayed. Some whispered. Lila's face reddened as she stepped back. For the first time, she looked small. I didn't gloat. I only nodded politely and walked to my seat. I felt dozens of eyes follow me, but I stayed calm. I wasn't here to fight. I was here to be seen. When I sat between Sophie's parents, they greeted me warmly, surprised but not unkind. The ceremony music began, lovely and soft. As the doors opened for the bridal party, I felt something settle inside me, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. Lila's power was slipping, and everyone could see it. The ceremony went beautifully. Sophie glowed, My brother cried, and the whole room felt full of light. But I could feel Lila's eyes on me every few minutes, sharp and angry like needles. I stayed steady. After the ceremony, we all moved toward the reception hall, where the tables sparkled under warm lights. I walked in quietly, holding my purse. Sophie's parents waved me over with kindness. I sat at the table of honor, feeling the weight of that moment. Meanwhile, Lila paced near the drinks table, whispering to people, trying to get someone, anyone, to question my presence. But they didn't. Claire had done her job well. When the servers placed the name cards on the plates, I watched Lila's eyes widen. My name was printed in bold letters. She stomped towards Sophie. "You can't let her sit here. She's ruining everything," she hissed. Sophie stood tall and said softly, "The only one ruining things right now is you." A hush fell. People turned. Lila froze, her cheeks going pale. I stayed seated, calm as a still river. When dinner began, people chatted with me warmly. Sophie's dad asked about my work. Her mother complimented my dress. And every kind word was another quiet strike against every lie Lila had told. The more people saw me, the more her stories fell apart. Lila glanced at me from across the room, shaking, furious, unraveling. She still hadn't understood the truth. I wasn't here to fight her. I was here to let the truth fight for me. And it was working. Just before speeches began, Lila made her move. She marched across the room toward me, heels clicking like angry little hammers. She stopped right in front of my chair and raised her voice loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Why are you here, Emma? You weren't invited. You're making a scene." People turned. Cameras lifted. The music playing in the background faded in my mind, but I didn't rise. I didn't flinch. I simply looked up at her and said, "I'm here because the bride wanted me here." She scoffed loudly. "Don't act innocent. You crashed this wedding." The word crashed echoed across the tables. Guests stayed between us, waiting. The moment stretched thin and tight. Sophie appeared beside us, her dress glowing under the lights. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Lila," she said, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass, "that's enough." Lila spun toward her. "You don't know what she's done," but Sophie held up her hand. "I know exactly what she's done. And what you've done." The room went silent. Fox stopped. Chase stilled. People leaned in without moving. Sophie looked at me, then at the crowd. "Everyone, please take your seats," she said. "There's something important I need to say before the speeches." Lila went pale. She shook her head slowly, as if she suddenly saw the cliff she was standing on. And she knew she was about to fall off it. Sophie squeezed my shoulder gently. "Stay here," she whispered. My chest filled with something warm, something strong. The truth was about to arrive. The lights dimmed slightly as Sophie stepped onto the small stage where the microphone waited. Lila stood frozen beside our table, trembling like she was made of paper in the rain. I sat quietly, hands folded in my lap. The whole room watched Sophie. "Before the speeches," she began, "I need to thank the people who helped make this day special." Guests smiled, expecting normal wedding compliments. But Sophie's voice grew steadier. "And I also need to thank the person who tried very hard to erase someone important from our wedding." A wave of confused murmurs swept across the room. Lila's eyes widened in horror. "Sophie," she whispered. Sophie continued. "Someone hid an invitation. Someone lied. Someone tried to turn family against each other." My heart pounded. People were whispering loudly now. Sophie lifted her hand toward me. "And the first person I want to thank is Emma." Gasps filled the room. My throat tightened. Sophie smiled at me warmly. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for your kindness. And thank you for showing me the truth." Then she turned toward Lila. "And now the person who tried to erase her needs to hear it with everyone watching." Cameras rose again. Guests leaned in. Lila's face crumpled. "Sophie, please." "No," Sophie said softly but firmly. "Not today." If you love revenge stories where the villain finally gets exposed, hit subscribe, because what came next changed everything. Sophie held the microphone like she was holding the truth itself. The room buzzed with whispers. I could almost feel every pair of eyes jumping between her, me, and Lila. My heart beat hard, but I kept my hands calm in my lap. Sophie took a slow breath. Before today, I trusted someone who didn't deserve it. Her voice didn't shake. And because I trusted her, I almost hurt someone who did deserve kindness. Lila shook her head quickly. Stop, please. This isn't fair. Sophie looked at her, sadness in her eyes. Fair? You lied. You tampered with invitations. You hid messages. You spread rumors. People gasped. A few guests covered their mouths. Lila whispered something, but her voice cracked too much to understand. Sophie held up a page. This, she said, is a screenshot from a group chat where Lila bragged about deleting Emma's invite. The planner dimmed the lights and projected the screenshot on the big screen. It showed Lila's message clearly. Deleted that invite. Sophie will never know. Lila covered her mouth in horror. Phones came out everywhere. The room erupted with shocked whispers. I felt my breath catch. This was it. The truth wasn't hiding anymore. It was glowing on a giant screen in front of hundreds of people. Sophie turned back to the MIC. Family doesn't erase family, she said. Lila collapsed into a chair, shaking. I sat still as stone, not gloating, not smiling, just letting truth do what it always does when it finally breaks free, shine. The moment the lights came back on, the room felt different, almost heavier. People didn't look at Lila the way they used to. They looked at her like she was a stranger wearing someone else's skin. Lila stood up slowly, her face red and blotchy. This is out of context, she choked out. Emma hated me, but Sophie spoke again. There's more. My breath froze. I didn't know she had more. The screen changed again. This time, another screenshot appeared, the one where Lila had said, Emma is like a shadow. No one will miss her. The gasps grew louder. A few guests actually groaned out loud. Lila's knees buckled. She grabbed the table to steady herself. My brother stood near the stage, his face white as chalk. He stayed at the screen like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. No, he murmured. Lila, tell me you didn't write that. But Lila couldn't speak. She just stayed at the carpet. Sophie lowered the mic. Emma, she said softly. I'm sorry for all of this. You deserved better. My chest tightened with emotion I didn't expect, relief mixed with old hurt melting away. Guests turned to me with looks of sympathy, respect, even guilt. I didn't say anything. The truth had already spoken for me. When Sophie stepped off the stage, she hugged me in front of everyone. And that hug cracked the last piece of Lila's control. People watched. People learned. People understood. And Lila finally realized she wasn't the powerful one anymore. The speeches continued after that, but everyone kept glancing at me and then at Lila. It was impossible not to notice the shift. The air around her felt cold and empty. The air around me felt warm, like sunlight. During dinner, guests approached quietly. Some apologized. Some said they always felt something was off. Others said they were glad the truth came out. I nodded kindly each time, not wanting to make the moment bigger than it already was. Meanwhile, Lila sat alone at a table near the back. No one joined her. Not even my brother. He was still pacing near the wall, looking like someone had hit him with a truth he didn't know how to hold. When our eyes met, he walked toward me slowly. Emma, why didn't you tell me? He asked. I swallowed hard. I tried. His shoulders dropped. I believed her instead. I nodded. I know. He looked like he wanted to say more, but Sophie began walking toward us. It's time, she whispered to me. I didn't know what she meant until the lights dimmed again and the slideshow began. Family photos, childhood pictures, sweet moments. Then, suddenly, the slides paused. A new image filled the screen. It was the torn envelope from my mailbox. My breath hitched. Sophie stepped forward again. This, she said, is what Emma found. A tampered invitation. Proof that someone wanted her erased. The room went silent. Even the music stopped. I felt everyone turn toward me with full understanding, and toward Lila with full judgment. The silence broke when Lila stood up suddenly, chest scraping against the floor so loudly it echoed. Her eyes were wild, darting between the screen and the guests staring at her. It wasn't. I didn't. She's twisting everything, she shouted. But no one bought it. The proof was too clear. The lies were too big. And the room had already chosen who to believe. My brother finally walked toward her, his expression carrying more pain than anger. Why? He asked softly. Why would you do that to my sister? Lila's breath shook. She tried reaching for his hand, but he stepped back. I thought, she stammered, I thought she didn't fit in. I thought she'd take attention away from us. I just wanted things perfect. My brother closed his eyes. You destroyed everything, he whispered. Not her. A few women nearby shook their heads. Someone muttered, what a shame. Someone else whispered, she ruined her own life. Lila looked around desperately, but every face she met held disappointment or disgust. I felt a strange mix of sadness and justice. She had hurt me deeply, but seeing her fall apart wasn't something I celebrated. I only watched quietly. Lila ran out of the room crying, pushing past guests who didn't move out of her way fast enough. The doors slammed behind her. The DJ cleared his throat awkwardly. Sophie took the mic again. Let's give Emma a moment, she said. All eyes turned to me once more, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen, fully seen. After everything that happened, people needed a breath. The DJ played soft music again, and the servers brought dessert to the tables. Sophie walked over and gently squeezed my hand. Are you okay? She asked. I nodded. Better than I've been in a long time. My brother approached slowly. His eyes were red. Emma, I'm so sorry, he said. I nodded again. I know. It wasn't you. He sat beside me, shoulders slumping. She's been twisting things for months. I didn't see it. I rested my hand on his arm. You see it now. He nodded, wiping his face. I want to fix this, he said. I smiled softly. Just don't forget what you saw today. When the music picked up, people began dancing. Children ran around the dance floor. Laughter filled the room again. I sat back, letting the joy settle around me. For the first time, it felt like I was part of the celebration, truly part of it. A few minutes later, Sophie tapped her glass with a fork for attention. Before we continue, she said, I want everyone to know something. The room quieted. Emma, she said, I should have made this clear before. But today, I want to say it proudly. She reached out her hand to me. Will you stand with me? As my true maid of honor. Gasps burst around the room. I stood slowly, heart thundering, tears rising. Lila wasn't there to watch her power crumble anymore, but everyone else was. And this moment felt like the final, perfect piece of justice falling into place. When I stood beside Sophie at the front of the room, the whole place burst into applause. Not gentle claps, real, heartfelt applause. My cheeks burned, but in a warm way, like I was finally standing where I belonged. Sophie hugged me tightly, whispering, I should have done this from the start. I squeezed her back. You did it when it mattered. People came up to us afterward. Some congratulated me. Others said things like, we are so glad the truth came out. And you deserve this. Every kind word washed away a little more of the pain Lila had caused. My brother stayed close, looking tired but relieved. He kept shaking his head like he still couldn't believe everything that had happened. At one point, Sophie's mum held my hands. Sweetheart, she said softly, you're family now. For real. My chest warmed. It meant more than she knew. Meanwhile, I noticed people whispering about Lila. Aunts huddled together. Cousins stayed at the door she had run out of. Some guests replayed the screenshots on their phones. And every whisper made it clear, her perfect image was gone. During the next dance, Claire found me and grinned. You okay? She asked. I nodded. I think. I'm finally okay. She nudged my shoulder. You handled all of this with more grace than anyone else would have. I watched families laughing, lights twinkling, music playing. The world felt full again. And for the first time, I didn't feel erased. I felt restored. After the formal dances, people settled into smaller groups. I went outside to breathe fresh air. The night was cool and calm, a gentle contrast to the storm earlier. I leaned against the railing, watching the lights from inside flicker through the windows. My brother joined me a moment later. He looked lost. She lied to me, he whispered. All this time. I nodded slowly. I know. She fooled a lot of people. He rubbed his face. She told me you didn't like Sophie. She told me you didn't want to be part of anything. My chest tightened. Why didn't you ask me? He swallowed. I thought she wouldn't lie to me. There it was. Simple. Sad truth. He leaned on the rail beside me. Emma, I should have protected you as my sister. Not believed lies about you. You were trying to make your marriage work. I said softly. You're not the villain. She is. He exhaled shakily. She said she was doing everything to make the wedding perfect. Perfect doesn't need lies, I replied. He looked at me then, eyes red. What do I do now? Start by facing the truth, I said gently. Even if it hurts. Inside, the music changed again. Laughter rose. The world was still moving, still joyful, even as we stood in the aftershock. My brother whispered, "Thank you for not giving up." I smiled sadly. You're my family. Even when you forget, I don't. He nodded slowly, understanding more in that moment than he had in months. And for the first time since this all began, I believed our relationship could heal. We went back inside, and the warmth of the room wrapped around us. A slow song played as couples danced. Sophie spotted me and waved, her smile bright with both relief and victory. I walked toward her, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. But the peace didn't last long. My aunt approached me with a tight frown. "Emma, why didn't you tell me what was going on?" she asked. I breathed deeply. I tried telling Mom and a few others. No one listened. She sighed, guilt flooding her face. "We thought you were being dramatic. I'm so sorry." "It's okay," I said gently. "You know the truth now." Word traveled fast. Soon, other relatives came over too. Apologies, regret, even embarrassment. One cousin said, "We believed everything Lila said. She's been feeding us lies for months." Every apology stitched something inside me back together. Then Sophie tapped her glass for attention again. "Everyone," she said, "we're about to start the couples dance. But first," she turned to me, "I want to thank the person who showed the most grace today." My heart skipped. Emma showed me how someone can be hurt deeply, but still choose dignity. People clapped. I felt tears rising. Then Sophie added softly, "And I promise, she will always have a place in our family." It wasn't just a moment. It was a rewriting of every lie Lila had told. People stood to clap. My brother hugged me from behind. And somewhere outside the hall, Lila's world was still falling apart. Later in the evening, the family group chat exploded on everyone's phones. Even at the wedding, notifications buzzed non-stop. Someone said Lila was outside crying. Someone else said she had tried calling my brother again. He didn't answer. I checked my phone only once. The chat was filled with messages. "I can't believe she did all that. Emma, we are so sorry. She ruined her own reputation." One message stood out, from my mum. "Emma, come find me when you can. I owe you a real apology." I exhaled slowly. Healing was coming in layers. Back inside, Sophie and I posed for photos. Someone whispered, "They look like real sisters." And for the first time, it didn't hurt. It felt right. During the bouquet toss, Sophie handed me the bouquet instead of throwing it. Everyone cheered. My cheeks hurt from smiling. But the night wasn't only about joy. It was also about choices. My brother walked up to the DJ and whispered something. Then he left the room quietly. I followed him outside, knowing where he was going. Near the parking lot, Lila sat on a bench, mascara running, hugging her knees. My brother approached slowly. "Lila," he said softly. She looked up, eyes swollen. "Please, don't leave me." He shook his head. "We need space." Her face cracked. "I was trying to protect us." He replied, voice calm and heavy, "You destroy trust. That's not protection." She burst into tears. I didn't say a word. Justice wasn't about yelling. It was about truth returning to its place. And tonight, it had. After the wedding ended, I helped Sophie gather a few gifts to take to the car. She hugged me again before leaving. "Thank you," she whispered. "You changed today for me." I shook my head. "No, you changed it by listening." Once the cars cleared out, I sat inside the empty hall for a moment. The lights were softer now, almost sleepy. I looked at the stage where Sophie had exposed everything. I looked at the screen where my evidence had shown the truth. Just yesterday, I felt invisible. Tonight, I felt whole. My mom found me sitting alone. She walked slowly, like she wasn't sure I'd want to see her. "Emma," she said softly, "I'm so sorry." I nodded. "I know." She sat beside me. I didn't listen. "I thought you were overreacting. I didn't want to believe someone in the family could be so mean." I swallowed. I didn't want to believe it either. Mom took my hand. "I promise I'll listen next time." That simple sentence made something inside me unclench. When we walked outside, Claire waved at me from the parking lot. "You did amazing," she called. "No," I said softly, "we did." As I got into my car, I checked my phone one last time. A single message from my brother blinked on the screen. "Thank you for being strong when I wasn't." I pressed the phone to my chest. The night wasn't quiet anymore. It was peaceful. The worst was over, but the aftermath, the true fallout, was just beginning. The day after the wedding, everything felt different. My phone buzzed nonstop. Some messages were sweet, others were shocked, and a few were angry, but not at me. By noon, the family group chat was a storm. People asked my brother what he planned to do. Others asked if Lila had left town. My mom told everyone, "Let's give Emma space. She deserves peace." I smiled at that. Peace sounded nice. I stayed home most of the day, replaying everything quietly in my mind. The applause, the screenshots, Lila running out, Sophie calling my name first. It all felt like something from a movie, but it was real. And I had lived it. Around evening, my brother came over. He looked tired but calm. "I'm staying at a friend's house," he said. "I need time to figure things out." I nodded gently. "Take the time you need." He sank into a chair and rubbed his eyes. "She hurt you. And she hurt Sophie. And me." He shook his head. "I can't believe I didn't see it." I sat beside him. "Sometimes love makes people blind," I said. "But you're seeing clearly now. That's what matters." He sighed. "Family's supposed to protect each other." I squeezed his hand. "And now we can." When he left, the house felt quiet again, but this time, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt clean, like a space freshly cleared after a storm. The truth had finally settled, soft and heavy, but in the right place. Days passed, and pieces of the fallout kept reaching me. A cousin messaged me saying people at church were whispering about Lila. Another cousin said her own friends unfollowed her online after seeing the screenshots. Even distant relatives messaged me privately, offering apologies for believing her lies. Some wrote longer messages, full of guilt and regret. One surprising message came from a woman I barely knew, one of Lila's old co-workers. She wrote, "This isn't the first time she's done something like this." My stomach flipped. I realized Lila's behavior wasn't new, she'd just never been caught so publicly. Meanwhile, Sophie and I grew closer every day. She sent me selfies of her and my brother smiling gently at each other. She said they were healing slowly. She also sent me a framed picture from the wedding, her and I standing together, laughing. At the bottom she had written, "Family is chosen." It made me tear up. At work, co-workers who had gone to Lila's brunch approached me carefully. "We are so sorry," they said. "We didn't know the truth." I forgave them. There was no point holding on to bitterness. I was tired of pain. One afternoon, I sat in my car before going inside the house and realized something important. I wasn't just not erased anymore. I was stronger than before. Lila had tried to take my place at the table. But all she did was make sure everyone saw exactly who I was, and who she was. The truth wasn't just justice. It was freedom. A week later, the final blow to Lila arrived. My brother told me she had moved out. Not by choice. He found out she had lied about other things. Small things. Strange things. Money things. Things she could no longer hide once trust was broken. He told her she needed to stay with her sister for a while. That a while slowly turned into for good. Rumors spread fast. People said she had been kicked out. Others said she left because she couldn't face anyone. Maybe both were true. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't enjoy hearing it. But I felt the justice in it. Meanwhile, life felt lighter. I visited Sophie and helped her unpack gifts. We laughed about silly mugs and fancy towels. She hugged me often, almost without thinking. One evening, she held my hand and said, "I want you in my life forever." I smiled. "You already have me." Later that week, I posted my full story online. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was honest. I posted screenshots. I posted the timeline. I told the truth plainly, without bitterness. The post blew up overnight. Thousands of comments. People shared their own stories of being erased, lied about, or pushed aside. They thanked me for speaking up. Some said they cried. Some said the justice felt like this too. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the girl who begged to be seen. I felt like the woman who showed the world what truth looks like. Months passed, and the wedding became a story whispered at gatherings. Not in a painful way, but in a "can you believe that happened" way. People looked at me differently now. They smiled with warmth instead of pity. They trusted me. They respected me. Sophie and I grew closer than ever. She invited me to help decorate their new home. I went with her to doctor's appointments when she got sick. We cooked together on weekends. My brother often joked, "I married Sophie, but I got you too." One day, Sophie said she wanted to launch a charity event for women who felt unheard in their families. She asked me to co-host it. Me, standing beside her, as equal voices. We planned it for the same venue as the wedding. I agreed without hesitation. When the event day came, I walked into that building with my head high. My name was on the program. My picture was beside Sophie's. People greeted me warmly, shaking my hand, telling me how strong I was. During the event, Sophie gave a short speech. She said, "Some people teach you what love is. Some teach you what love is not. And some people, like Emma, teach you how to rise again." The room clapped. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. Later, as we greeted guests, someone asked if Lila ever apologized. I shook my head gently. "Some people never do," I said. "But we learn to move on anyway." And I had moved on. Not quietly. Not forgotten. But fully myself. The next morning, I woke to sunlight spilling across my bed. The charity event had been a success. Hundreds attended. Donations poured in. Messages filled my phone. Messages of support, gratitude, and admiration. I smiled, feeling a peace I hadn't felt in a long time. I got ready and drove to Sophie's house. She answered the door with a bright grin and handed me a framed photo, the two of us on stage at the event, smiling proudly under the lights. At the bottom, she'd written, "We choose each other." I held it carefully, my heart soft and full. When I walked outside to leave, I saw my brother leaning against his car. "Want breakfast?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." As we drove, he said quietly, "I'm proud of you, Emma." I looked out the window, smiling. "I'm proud of me too." For a long moment, we didn't say anything. The world felt calm again. And then I realized something important. Lila had tried to erase me. But she only erased herself. The truth had lifted me higher than her lies ever could. I didn't need revenge to hurt her. I only needed the truth to free me. As we pulled into the cafe parking lot, my brother asked, "So, what now?" I stepped out of the car, stretched, and felt the warm sun on my face. "Now," I said, "I live my life. Fully." And I walked inside, knowing I would never let anyone erase me again. If you love the story and want more deep, true revenge tales filled with twists, hit subscribe, and never miss the next one. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts in the comments.